Always a step behind? Here's how to fix that. Hi, I'm Greg Burton. Welcome to Thinking Ahead. Today we're going to be talking about the OODA loop. That's spelled OODA. And today you'll learn what it is, why it works, and how to use it in daily life. The OODA loop is a method of structured thinking to allow you to make better decisions, particularly in a competitive environment. It's been used and is used by fighter pilots, CEOs, professional athletes, and politicians to help them make better decisions and achieve a win state in their competitions. The OODA loop was first described by Colonel John Boyd of the U.S. Air Force. Boyd was a fighter pilot instructor at one point, as well as many other things in his career, but he was called 42nd Boyd because he claimed it would only take him 40 seconds to beat any other pilot in a dogfight. It turned out that his method of thinking about conflicts applied to far more than just airplane dogfights. Since then, the loop has been used for many things, including litigation, sports, and business strategy. It relies on 4 steps and a couple of basic concepts. The 4 steps we're looking at are observe, orient, decide, and act. Let's go over each of those in a little more detail. Our first phase is observation. That may seem simple, like all you have to do is look at something, but you have to look at it in detail. And most importantly, you have to look at it without the overlay of your ideas about what it means. For example, we might look and notice that the sky is very cloudy and the wind is starting to pick up. Well, that's the observation. We don't want the part after that that says that means it's going to rain, because that's an assumption and not an observation. Learning to observe is a skill, and it's one that things like plant identification or a drawing class can help you to learn and develop that skill. The better you get at observing, the faster you'll be able to complete this phase of the loop. And speed is important. You'll learn more about why speed is important later in this video. Phase 2 is orientation. This is the part where we consider what we've observed and then decide what it means. We filter our information through our experiences, our training, and our biases. All of those are important to consider. Remember, we've tried to get rid of any bias and idea of meaning when we observe so we can then apply our analytical skills to a clean data set, if you will. When talking about basketball, Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr, both from the Warriors, talk about learning to see the pictures. For them, learning to see the pictures means seeing what's on the court, who's where, and knowing to some degree of certainty what will happen next based on the way things are going. That's a picture. It requires a lot of experience to be able to analyze in that way, which is one of the reasons, of course, that players get better and people get better at what they're doing. The more experience you have, the better your analysis and orientation is going to be. At this point, it's time to decide. You've already observed everything, you know what's going on. You've oriented, you understand what that means, and now you have to make a decision. Observing and orienting have given you the information you need in order to make a decision and to choose which of the possibilities you have will work best. For a basketball player, for example, that might be choosing to pass, to dribble, to wait, or to shoot. What you're doing at this point is looking for a good decision, and it's fast. You very much want to make a fast decision. The decision doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be good enough. And finally, you act. Because you've made your decision based on your observation and orientation, you don't need to second guess your decision. You can act immediately, and the faster you act at this point, the better. Once you've acted, you feed this information back into the loop so that you again observe what the results of your action were, orient to the changes in the environment and the situation, decide and act again. And this loop continues, and you continue your loops until the entire process and event is done. So that's the basis of the OODA loop. You observe, you orient yourself, you make a decision, and you act, and then you repeat the entire process. If you've observed and oriented yourself properly, then a decision is not going to take too much time to make. You already know what your field of operation is and what's possible to do. Because you're confident about your decision making, you can act immediately, eliminating the time for second guessing and allowing you to go through your loop even faster the next time through. That leaves the orientation and observation phases as the ones taking the most time. As I said before, you can learn to observe, and that will speed up the process. More experience in that area will allow you to make a better decision as well. Now it's time for us to look at why speed is the critical issue in this, and why learning these things will help you to make a better decision and have more success. Speed wins because faster decisions disrupt the opponent's loop. Everyone goes through the OODA loop all the time. Let's say it takes you 4 seconds to go through your loop, and it takes your opponent 5 seconds to go through their loop. In 20 seconds, you've completed 5 loops, and they have completed 4. So you've gained an entire loop on your opponent. So while they're responding to something you did, you've already done something else, and you're responding to their direct actions. They'll get further and further behind as the conflict continues because you're going through your loop faster. You've put your opponent on the back foot at this point, and they will always be behind, allowing you to keep the initiative through the rest of the conflict. And that means you can outmaneuver your enemy, or launch your product faster than competitors can, or react more rapidly in a sports environment and make the play that's needed to win. Knowing about the OODA loop allows you to sharpen your observations, to rethink your orientations, to practice fast decision-making, and to act as soon as you've decided. Practicing these things will always give you a competitive advantage in any field. Now let's look at an example of the OODA loop in action. A reporter observes that they have been accidentally added to an online chat, and they read the chat. This is loop 1. They then observe that the chat members are senior officials discussing military plans. They orient to this by realizing that these plans are classified information, and make the decision to write about the chat without divulging classified material that would make them liable, perhaps under various espionage laws. They then act by writing and publishing the article. This results in an administration claim that there is no discussion of classified material in the chat. Now the reporter observes the claim that no classified information was presented. They orient by realizing that because the administration has made that claim, their decision to publish should have no consequences legally. At this point, the reporter decides to publish some of the classified information to support their story, and acts by doing so. This results in the administration backtracking on its original claim and making new claims, reducing the administration's credibility and also enhancing the credibility of the reporter. Looking at it from the administration side, we can see that the first failure of the officials was to observe that there was someone in the chat who didn't belong there. None of this happens if they do their observation properly. The second thing they fail in is orientation. They do not realize that they are operating on an insecure platform and do not move to a secure platform. Because of these two failures, they then make a decision based on poor information and poor judgment to deny that there was any classified material discussed in the chat. Again, had they been aware of the first two items, to observe and to orient, they would not have made that error. But here they've decided to just go with their original decision and back. With the publication of the second article, the officials are placed in an untenable position where they have no good options. They can lie, they can deflect, or they can admit their previous error, but every single one of those results in a loss of credibility for them. So let's recap now. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. It's a looping process that allows you to make increasingly good decisions, and it's fast, flexible, and powerful. And the faster you loop, the more control you gain. I hope this has been useful information for you and it helps you improve your own decision making. If you're ready to loop smarter, you can like if this video helped you. You can comment below how you'll use the OODA loop in your own life. And you can subscribe for more decision-making strategies. Our next episode will be mental models for better decision-making. Thanks for joining me today, and here's to better decision-making in your future.